Now we are moving on to the next topic of the chapter, that is worker population ratio and categorization of employment. Now let us see what is worker population ratio. Worker population ratio is a term which is used to study about the participation of people in the employment. To study about the participation of people in the employment process, we need to concentrate on the term worker population ratio. Now, what is this worker population ratio? Worker population ratio is an indicator to analyze the participation of people in the employment. In India, how many people are participating in the employment process? To study about that, we need to understand the concept of worker population ratio. Now, how to find out the worker population ratio? Worker population ratio is equal to total number of workers in India divided by population into 100. So, worker population ratio is found by using the formula total number of workers in India divided by the population of our country into 100. So, this is the formula to find out the worker population ratio. Now, why do we find out the worker population ratio? What is the importance of finding the worker population ratio? Now, let us discuss it one by one. It determines the proportion of population that is actively contributing to the production of goods and services of a country. So, it helps to determine the proportion of population that is actively contributing to the production of goods and services of a country. So, if the proportion is low, we can say that the proportion of the population who is actively contributing to the production of goods and services is very less. If it is high, we can say that the proportion of population contributing to the goods and services is very high. So, depending on the value that we get by using the formula, what is the formula we have written here? Total number of people working in India, workers in India divided by the population in India into 100. With that, we will be getting a numerical value. If that proportion is high, we can find people who are contributing to the goods and services is very high. If it is less, we can find that the proportion of people who are involved in the contribution of goods and services is less. Next is, it determines the quality of the employment. Now, which all sectors the people are involved in? What is the quality of the employment? Now, how many numbers of people are working in certain sectors, certain areas? To find out that, the worker population ratio is very useful. So, it helps to determine the quality of the employment. How many people are sticking on to the employment process? What is the present worker population ratio? That helps to understand the quality of the employment. Next is to know the attachment which a worker has with his job. The same can be connected to the quality of the employment. To know about the attachment of a worker to his job, how long he is sticking on to the job, how many are working in certain areas. If the number of people who are working in certain areas are high, it represents the attachment of the workers to that particular area. So, to analyze all these, the worker population ratio is very important. So, the importance of worker population ratio is to determine the proportion of the population that is actively contributing to the production of goods and services of a country, then to determine the quality of employment, then to know the attachment which a worker has with his job. Now, some facts and figures regarding the worker population ratio. To study about worker population ratio, you have the table in your textbook, that is table number 7.1 in page 7.5. Now, your table is on the basis of the survey done in the year 2011-12. So, on the basis of the survey done in 2011-12, the table which gives importance to worker population ratio is given. The table number is 7.1 in page 7.5. Please do refer the table and try to analyze what worker population ratio shows in that table. Next is employment, the structure of employment. You have already learned about the definition of employment. Now let us categorize the employment into two. There are two types. One is self-employment and the other one is wage employment. Now what is the self-employment? Self-employment, you all know. Self-employment means self-employed. The worker uses his own resources. For example, a shopkeeper who is running his shop, he is using his own resources, his own land. He is the person who is running. So he is using his own resources, human resource. He is not hiring any laborers from outside. His own land, he is running the shop. It is a self-employment. He is a self-employed person. A doctor who is running his own clinic at his home, that is also an example of self-employment. He is not working under any management or any institution. He is running the clinic by his own. That is an example of self-employment. So self-employment is a type of employment in which the worker uses his own resources. Now wage employment. In a wage employment, worker will sell his labor and earn wages in return. Professionals like doctors, teachers, lawyers, they will sell their labor and take the wages in return. That kind of a labor is known as, that kind of an employment is known as wage employment. So there are two types of employment. One is self-employment and the other one is wage employment. Now, this wage employment is again categorized into regular workers and casual laborers. These are the two types of workers which we can find in wage employment, regular workers and casual workers or casual laborers. Now, self-employment. Regarding the self-employment, I told you there are two types of employment, self-employment and wage employment, and we have defined what is self-employment and what is wage employment. Now let us learn something about self-employment. Now in India, 52% of the workforce belong to this category. 52% of the workforce belong to self-employment. Now in that we can find both men and women are equally involved in the self-employment. So 52% of people in India are involved in self-employment. Both men and people are also involved in self-employment. Now people here make use of their own land, labor, capital and entrepreneurship. He is the one who is running that. So he is the organizer, he is the entrepreneur. So he uses his own resources as well as land, labor, etc. Now we will move on to wage employment. Now here workers do not have any resources. They will sell their labor. Here the workers do not have any resources. They use the resources of the others. They will sell their labor and then they will earn the wages. That kind of an employment is wage employment. Now wage employment are of two types I mentioned before. One is regular workers and the other one is casual workers. So in wage employment, workers do not have any resources. They only sell their labor. They are using the resources of others, isn't it? For example, a doctor who is working in a hospital, he is using the resources of the hospital which is provided by the management of that hospital. So he is not using his resource, he is using the resource of others, and thus he is selling his labor. He is selling his ability, he is selling his labor and then he is earning the wages. Now the wage employment are of two types. One is regular workers and the other one is casual workers. Now who are these regular workers and casual workers? Regular workers. When a worker is engaged by someone or by an enterprise and paid wages on a regular basis, we call it as a regular salaried employee. So who is a regular salaried employee or a regular worker? A regular worker is a person who is engaged by someone. Someone is taking ownership to do the work and he is making one person to do the work. So that person is working under somebody else. That is known as the regular worker. So regular worker. So regular worker is engaged by someone or an enterprise. It can be an enterprise or an individual. If it is an enterprise, lot of people will be working in that particular enterprise. Okay. And they are paid wages on a regular basis. Monthly salary is an example for that, and that is known as regular salaried workers. So regular salaried workers are those people who are engaged by someone or by an enterprise and they are paid on a regular basis. For example, monthly salary. Now they are hired on permanent basis. That is a very important aspect. They are hired on permanent basis with social security benefits such as pension, PF, etc. So they are regular workers. They are hired on a permanent basis. They enjoy job security and social security benefits like pension, then provident fund, PF, etc. Now in our country, 18% of the workforce belong to this particular category, formal workers or regular workers. You have learned this in class 10. Now casual workers, workers who are casually engaged and in return getting remuneration for the work they done, they are known as casual workers. Remuneration, they are working on daily basis. Daily wages is an example for casual workers. Even weekly wages, they are also an example for casual workers. So they also work under a particular enterprise and they will be earning their wages on a daily basis or weekly basis. You can find lot of people working in construction companies on daily wages. They belong to casual workers. Even the weekly payment also belongs to casual workers. The main focus is on the people who are working on daily wages. They are exact casual workers. Now, they are not hired on permanent basis. Anytime they can be moved out from the system. They are known as casual workers. Okay? And they do not have any regular income. They are paid every day. If they are not coming on one day in a particular week, for that particular day they will not be given the wages. Only for those days they are coming, they will be paid with the wages. So they don't have a regular income. They don't have any protection. They don't have any job security. They can be kicked out at any time and they don't have any social security benefits like pension or provident fund. That is the feature of casual laborers. And almost 30% of the people belong to this particular category. So the casual workers are more than the regular workers. So this is the difference between regular workers and casual workers. So I hope the topic is very clear to you. Worker population ratio, to find out the participation of the people involved in the production of goods and services in the country, and it is found by using the formula people working at present divided by the total population into 100. Now by finding that, we can understand the proportion of the people involved in the production of goods and services. Then we learned about employment, which is categorized into two, and finally we learned the difference between categorized into two wage employment, isn't it? And in the wage employment we have learned about the casual workers and the regular workers. So I hope it is clear to you. Thank you.